Good afternoon. Today, I invite Mr. Matsushita. He is emeritus professor of Kyoto University. He is still very active working outside relating environmental issue at the global level. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Matsushita, today. By the way, he today is talking about Paris Agreement Accord, but also he has some recommendation or opinion he has. So today he's going to ask him his opinion and what is the general issues, what he has. Okay? Mr. Matsushita, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Mr. Unno. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Today I'd like to talk about the Paris Agreement on climate change. I think the implication of Paris Agreement is it is the beginning of the decarbonized civilization. Paris Agreement recommends the global society to reduce emissions of CO2 to net zero emission by the latter half of the 21st century, which means that we have to reduce our emissions completely, in the net sense. So we have to change current economic and business activities. So it will be a very complete sort of new industrial revolution towards a decarbonized society.
By the way, you have been overseas many times every year, right? So recently, what kind of event did you attend?
Particularly, you mean the international?
Oh yes, domestic, whatever.
Domestic. I have attended various expert meetings, and according to the views of some people, the common sense in Japan and the common sense abroad are quite different.
Oh,
What
really?
is common in Japan is not common in the world. For example,
I see.
Japanese people believe that Japanese energy efficiency is still the world top runner.
Really?
But in reality, after 1990, it was true in 1990s or the beginning of 1990s. But currently, Japanese energy efficiency and CO2 emission efficiency has been caught up by various European countries, including Switzerland, UK, Germany. So Japan is no longer the most energy efficient country in the world.
Oh, really? It's interesting. Really, I thought Japan is very ahead of kind of energy efficiency and performances. But actually, you said not so good, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I
see. Japan used to have a dominant position in terms of solar power, solar voltaic production, like Sharp or Kyocera or Panasonic. But currently, the production of solar power voltaics are dominated by Chinese companies or Korean or Taiwanese companies.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is I know that.
And also, if you look at the future, there is a very severe competition towards low carbon emission vehicles, like electric vehicle or fuel cell vehicles. So there is a very strong competition. So currently, Japanese companies still doing well, but if they fail, if Chinese or German companies are working very hard to produce...
Japan is left behind.
I do not say that, but it depends on the next few years. The direction will be decided whether some companies in China or in Germany or in Japan are going ahead with electric vehicles.
Oh, it means Japanese company will going to have problems within next few years. What you mean?
Different companies have different strategies so far.
Right.
But for example, Toyota, Toyota strategy is to cover electric vehicle as well as fuel cell vehicles, and also hybrid cars.
Oh, yeah, hybrid, yes.
Toyota was ahead with hybrid cars.
That's right.
But if they rely too much on hybrid cars, then they may lag behind in producing electric vehicles.
I see. So,
and they have a very long chain of production chains, so it is not easy to change immediately to, for example, electric vehicles.
My observation for Toyota that they make an investment for EV and hybrid, but still combustion engines.
Yeah.
So they split the 3 investment compared with European car or some other advanced car manufacturer. They currently already focused on EV only. How do you think about it?
No, they still try to go ahead with the fuel cell vehicles. Toyota is the front runner of fuel cell vehicles, but they have divided their resources into different fronts.
My observation is, I think Japanese company like to make investment for split advanced technology and current technology and old technology, but traditionally, technology. That's the reason why they are gradually, behind the European car manufacturing company. I thought, how do you think? Is this not correct?
It depends on the policies of the country. For example, Germany or UK, or Germany and France and UK, UK and France announced that they will phase out gasoline-based automobiles by the year 2040 or 2035 or so.
Right.
And also China is also focusing on electric vehicle. So China is a big market. So if they decide to phase out gasoline-based engines, then that will make a big difference.
So, so Japanese company, manufacturing companies, their competitive situation, how's it going on?
We will see. It is still the very tough competition is now going on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And as for the Japanese policy on climate change, Japanese environmental policy used to be regarded one of the most advanced in terms of reducing industrial pollution, like air pollution, water pollution, waste recycling. But currently, according to one of the German think tank, NGO, German Watch, evaluated climate change policies of major countries, 58 major emitting countries. And Japan was the 57th, the second from the worst. The worst one was Saudi Arabia.
What do you mean?
They have taken up various indicators, like the emission, greenhouse gas emissions, and the rate of reduction, and the target of reduction, and also the share of renewable energies, and other measures taken.
Oh, it means a comparison of actual data.
Yeah, based on some scientific, some objective data. And according to their evaluation, Japan ranked second worst in the top, in the 58 major countries.
But you said the Japanese climate change policy or strategy is very good, right? But actual data is not good.
No, I didn't. I said Japan used to be a very good energy efficient country up until around 1990. But after that, Japanese policy was not very proactive.
Really?
And so, Japanese energy efficiency and CO2 emissions did not improve.
Why Japanese is so bad information, get data based upon this company organization survey? Why Japanese is not so good?
One of the reasons is that Japan still relies heavily on production on the electricity from coal-fired plants, coal-fired power plants. Sektan Karekun.
Coal-fired plant.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And internationally, many countries are reducing the amount of energy from electricity from coal-fired power plants.
So instead, they are much more focused on solar panel or
renewable energies and
windmill.
also, yeah.
I see. How about nuclear power plant?
That is another very delicate issue.
Okay, so let's the issue discuss later. Okay, go ahead for this current your issue.
Of course, after 2011, I mean 3/11 of the year 2011 of the Fukushima earthquake and East Japan earthquake and Fukushima nuclear power plants accident. All the Japanese nuclear power plants have stopped operation, so that Japanese electricity has to rely on coal. But after 5 years, they are still relying pretty much on coal power plants, and also there are many plans to introduce new coal-fired power plants.
Oh, the coal instead of oil.
Coal.
Coal,
Yeah.
not oil.
Oil is very expensive.
Oh, really? Coal. Oh, natural gas?
There are, of course, natural gas is
Also expensive.
expensive, but very used widely.
Oh, okay.
So one of the options is to replace coal-fired plants with natural gas plants.
So it means, especially since 2011, Japanese much more focus on the coal using plant. That caused the environmental data got worse compared with the rest of the world.
That is one of the reasons.
Do we have another one?
Also, Japan is also supporting development of coal-fired power plants in developing countries by using official fund.
Oh, this is also that survey company considered kind of investment. I see. Okay. Japan is not exporting just nuclear power plant construction something? No.
Japan is also promoting the export of nuclear power plants, of course. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so what is the current Japan is? First of all, this present your opinion is you're going to talking about Japanese problem, okay, issues compared with European countries. People they have some recognition or what says thinking gap they have. What kind of major gap do they have?
Actually, according to the Paris Agreement, each country has to set up a target for the year 2030 as well as for the year 2050. And Japan has a national target of 80% reduction of greenhouse gases by the year 2050. But actually, there was no specific or concrete pathway to achieve 80% reduction by the year 2050. And actually, Japanese government is now considering preparing a long-term low-carbon emission pathway. Sometime fiscal year 2018.
18.
Yeah.
Oh, this year.
I mean, yeah, starting from April.
So our proposed figure is bad compared with the other countries, advanced countries, or more negative, or.
I think 80% reduction by the year 2050 is already a very ambitious target.
Ambitious, yes.
But I mean, it is they are sort of required for all the industrial countries, including European countries as well as United States.
Right. But
the
actually,
question is how to achieve that goal.
I see. This is not clear how to attain that goal.
We have to discuss.
But not well discussed yet.
According to Japanese policy making on climate change policy are usually decided between the sort of discussion between the Ministry of the Environment and also the Ministry of Industry, METI.
Oh, okay, just a moment. You just show me your introduction. Could you show me your introduction, your handy phone? Show me. Your introduction, your name.
Your name.
Yeah. And profile, your profile. No, more, small one.
Small.
Yeah.
No,
the other one, different one.
Different.
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, but that is in Japanese.
Oh, okay. Just no English. I need English. I don't need Japanese.
Only
No Japanese.
Japanese.
No Japanese. This is English. So this one is English. Okay.
Official.
Huh? Cannot see. You can see? No, not well. Not well. You cannot see. Yeah. Oh no, like this. Okay, this is Mr. Matsushita's website. So this is. Can you see his address? No, not well. Huh? Not well. That's right. It's not good. Sorry, but not where I can see it. But Kazuo Matsushita, okay, he's just, you can see that his name. Okay, so let's continue. By the way, so Japanese is, but I think Japan is like making a plan or making a strategy. I thought they are very heavy skill for making that kind of plan, not only climate change, but also future goals, something. But how come he does not prepare a detailed plan toward 2050? Why they cannot make it?
Oh, it's a mystery.
Mystery, but just MITI or some other government people, very well, educated and knowledgeable, wisdom, so they can consider for that. But I agree that the economy is like this, politics like that, right? Just so your opinion is the environment is the same.
There is a great change in terms of industrial structure or industrial sort of activities. So far, we have been relied upon the so-called fuel-based economy, and now we have to change to non-fuel-based economy.
Oh, you mean PL instead of
coal and oil.
Asset-based?
Yeah, but
asset-based, you mean PL-based versus PL means
in terms of energy. In terms of energy, we are based on.
Sorry, PL means profit and loss statement.
Profit.
PL, you said PL, right?
No, I didn't.
What did you say? PL? What? I couldn't hear you. What do you mean? PL? What?
We are now entering a new economy based on non-fossil fuel-based energy.
Oh, okay.
Decarbonized society.
Okay.
We are entering into a decarbonized society.
Okay.
And currently...
You're talking about sustainability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, Japanese economy and Japanese policy are very much dominated by the influence of heavy industries or energy industries.
Oh, okay. So, traditional industry sector people has a big voice.
Yeah.
So that's the reason you professional or expertise people are very difficult to prepare to consider for future.
Of course, there are many proposals, but in practice, it is difficult to change the society. The best way is to introduce the so-called carbon pricing, to put price on carbon, to put price on CO2, like carbon tax or emission trading, so that people, industries have to choose to reduce emissions of CO2 or to buy emission rights from other companies.
I see. By the way, a friend of mine before he was in charge for TPP, and he told me a Japanese representative, they speak out very difficult to their opinion in this meeting for a week. Only first 3 hours they can speak out, but their issue going to change. They cannot speak out as a representative of Japanese government. I think this is the same for the environmental climate change meeting or something. It's the same. They are very difficult to speak out their opinion while they are conventional.
I think there are, of course, various reasons for that. One is the sort of language barrier.
Oh, language barrier.
The other is the decision-making process. Those who are representing the Japanese government have limited, power to decide on their own. They have to report back to They have to report back to their ministry or to their to Tokyo how to respond to the changing sort of agenda or changing proposals.
I see, but you can speak English very well, and while still you are attending that kind of conference. But how come still many people they cannot speak English very well, or they can express what they think or what the issue is supposed to be or debate?
There are, of course, many people who are very fluent in
yes, right.
in English and also who are very knowledgeable about issues.
What is the obstacle for them?
The obstacle is how to make a consensus among the Japanese
among Japanese people instead of
government,
European people.
Japanese administration is sectorally divided.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So that
make consensus, it takes time. Instead of speak out opinion to debate with is overseas people.
And also many Japanese companies, they watch other companies all the time. They, act as a group.
Oh, you mean to keep pace with them?
It's like industrial association,
right,
like steel industry, electric industry. They watch other companies what they do.
Not step forward.
And they do not provide any individual
their information
or proactive opinion.
Oh, really? So this is very difficult to make consensus among Japanese instead of persuade European people of opinion. So this is a big.
So if, for example, Keidan-ren announces some official
economic federation, right? Yes.
Japan Federation for Economic Organizations.
Yes.
They have published, for example, they are against the introduction of carbon tax. So then individual companies have to refrain from expressing different opinions. Yeah?
Really? And that they are not follow on the Economic Federation of Japan, no?
If you look at the international or world business circle, there are many companies, famous companies, like IKEA or Apple or Google or Facebook. Many big companies now announcing that their energy will be covered by 100% by renewable energies. They are calling themselves as RE 100, Renewable Energy 100.
Right.
For example, Apple announced that they will cover all the energy that they for their operations, 100% renewables by the year. I don't know, I don't recall, but they try to reduce the reliance on coal-fired power plant electricity. So there are many companies who announce that they will move to non-fossil fuel-based energy.
Okay, overseas companies, they have heavily recognized the climate change and the environmental issues.
Of course, there are very limited number of Japanese companies who joined RE 100, like Ricoh or 63 House or Daiwa House.
But not many.
Askel. And they are regarded as kind of outsider of the mainstream Japanese industrial organizations.
Why they are doing that? They are not interested in climate change?
They think Japan is still already doing enough. And
Enough
if the government introduce, for example, higher carbon tax, that will take away the resources to invest in innovation. So that will, if the government introduce higher carbon tax, that would prevent innovation. So that is a different position that many of the scholars are
why they are thinking
promoting.
that compared with overseas company? Why Japanese company negative for investment for environment or tax and so forth? Why?
So that is a mystery. That is why I said Japanese common sense is not a common sense in the world common sense.
Why they are,
according to one of the Japanese newspaper, NHK special program, some of the Japanese industry people attended COP 23 last year, and they think that they thought they were doing very positive actions towards addressing climate change, but they found that overseas companies regarding Japanese industrial activity are not very favorable for climate change. They are very much lagging behind the international trend to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Oh, it's interesting. Japanese top people, many top people communicate with overseas company, right?
Limited number of Japanese representatives of the industrial society attended the COP 23 last year in Berlin in November last year. But they found that their position was very much lagging behind that of the other industrialized countries.
What kind of people are attending from company?
For example, Lixel or Sexy House or Ricoh.
This kind of company is very much interested in climate change instead of the other remaining.
They are the members of the so-called JCPL, Japan Climate Leaders Partnership.
It means so those companies are interested in improving.
There are some companies who are proactive on climate change.
The majority they are not interested in.
And I would say that there is a very huge promising market in the near future. For example, renewables and energy efficiency and housing and transportation. If you produce low carbon technology or low carbon products, for example, zero emission vehicle or zero emission housing, zero emission transportation, zero waste products, that would take away that would means you will be a winner in the future market.
Okay, if so, I think we have a problem compared with especially European companies, right? European society, right? Community.
I do not say that Japanese companies, people in the Japanese companies are not working hard. They are working very hard. But the overall direction of the Japanese society or Japanese government, Japanese government has not set a very clear goal for the reduction of CO2 and also transition to a renewable energy. They are still relying on pretty much on coal and nuclear.
This is a big problem. So, just your opinion is?
Yeah, in order to decide your investment, I mean, for companies, they have to have a clear vision for the future. How the government will
but we don't have.
target.
We don't
set a target, or how the regulation will become.
Majority of companies, they don't have a goal for climate change. But
I mean,
also
the government did not provide clear guidance where to go.
Oh, by the way, American or European company, even if the government are building a clear goal, but they're going to prepare by themselves, right? But not Japanese companies, they cannot do it.
Yeah, according to, I think you are talking about Trump administration, President Trump announced that United States will withdraw from Paris Agreement, and yet many American states or local cities or private companies are going ahead with to address climate change.
Right.
And I think there are different differences between administrative capacity of U.S. state and Japanese local governments.
Oh, it means historically, Japanese company was following Japanese government leadership or opinion in the past, and currently the same, right? They follow on the government.
But in the States, it is not a centralized country.
Yeah, right.
For example, California has its own right to decide their policy. For example, to expand renewable energy 100% by the year 2050, 50% by the year 2030 or so. So also they are phasing out the use of carbon emitting vehicles.
California. Oh, by the way, now is a little bit talking about America, United States of America. How do you think about Trump? They will withdraw from Paris Accord. How do you think about that?
Of course, it is a very bad blow to the implementation of Paris Agreement.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Trump's announcement to withdraw from Paris Agreement raised awareness of other countries or business community or civil society to work together to achieve Paris agreements.
It's against government opinion. Against government. So what's going on in near future, 1 year or 2 years? Still the current situation will go on, or California against Trump, right? This is they'll cause a lot of problem, right?
Of course, there are various elements, but if you think of the private companies' point of view, they have to look for the future market, and the world is certainly moving towards low carbon or zero carbon society. So if you produce or if you have innovation for low carbon society or low carbon product or zero emission products, then you will be a winner. And if Japan is moving towards low carbon industry or low carbon community or low carbon cities, combined with current Japanese problems like low fertility rate or aging society.
Exactly.
Yeah. Then Japan can solve various issues simultaneously. If you invest in low carbon emission technology, at the same time, if you modify the city to take care of elderlies and to make cities more comfortable for young couples, Japan will become more prosperous, and Japan will become a model for other countries, and they can export our experience to other countries and help other countries.
Oh, really? Before you told me Japanese plan is not so well, or actual data is very behind compared with the world statistical data, but you said in future Japan will going to have some big hope.
I think if you look at the various technology or various methods or various products, Japan is very good at producing very good, low carbon or zero carbon things like recycling. So my question is, there is no strategic overall direction or guidance from the top of the government, lacking top leadership and also followership. But the Japanese people are very ingenious.
Genius means.
And if you look at, there are of course various indications towards low carbon society. For example, we are talking through this, internet. if you publish books, you have to print and distribute and things like that. But through the internet, we can communicate with very little inputs of energy and resources. And for example, by digitalizing the publication or communication or music or education, we can provide better services, less energy and resources. And also, if you think about transportation, now people are not own their cars individually. They share or they just rent or recycle. So that by introducing Internet of Things, IoT, or information technology, and also artificial intelligence, AI, we can reduce the input of energy and resources dramatically, and at the same time provide better service for example, we can enjoy better knowledge, better communication, better transportation, better heating or cooling by using more advanced technology.
So Japanese future, currently we have more elderly people, and also we have lots of problems because of population getting decreasing. But still, next decade or 2 decades, we're going to have a more better world, or better life, or better standard of life. Or how do you think? But GDP just per person very stable past 10 years. But how do you think about this in future? How is it getting better?
Currently, Japanese society has the excess supply of fund or money. Currently, the rate of interest rate is very low, which means that the cost of money is very low.
Right.
So if you find out better target for investment,
right,
like renewable energy or energy efficiency or better community infrastructure, if you're investing in low carbon infrastructure for the future, and then that will produce a better product, and that can be exported to other countries. So that it depends on how, as I said, there is a huge amount of promising or promised market for the decarbonized, non-carbon society. So
I see. So it means currently Japanese per person GDP per capita is $37,000 is no change per 10 years. But still, next 10 years might be the same level compared with Singapore or Hong Kong. They're growing, but we are not. But still, we don't worry about this.
I have no answer to that. It depends on how people work. Of course, there is a clear indication that the working population of Japan will decrease. So that we have to think about how to compensate for that part. Of course, there are different approaches like, working longer. After 60 years or 65 years, there are many people who can still work. And also, gender equality.
Yes,
there are many talented, educated female people, so that they have a better opportunity to work. To provide their knowledge and their talents. And also, there are many foreign. For example, I worked for the university, and there are many good students who are from abroad. And if they stay in Japan and they accommodate to the Japanese society, they will be a very good, contributor to the Japanese society. So that, of course, these systems have to change. Immigration system has to be modified. Of course, there are pros and cons about the liberalization of immigration.
Oh, by the way, you have involved in a lot of foreigners and global activity. You have spent many years. By the way, Japanese is basically Japanese have difficulty to communicate with overseas people, not only language but also cultural differences, and also Japanese are not familiar with debate. How to think about this? Do you have any problem to talk with them?
Of course, various difficulties arise when we communicate with other foreign people. But my understanding is that we have a very good Japanese society, and we welcome foreigners. But foreigners have to, comply with the Japanese society. Live in harmony with Japanese society. They have to accept some of the Japanese rules and traditions and culture. So, for example, we have to communicate better with the foreign people by, for example, for the tourists, we have to provide basic principles when we visit tourist spots. Pay attention to not to throw away garbage, respect the nature, conserve the nature. Of course, there are. We can ask them to behave in a better way.
Yes, you are involved in a global society, and you are very familiar with reading English material and so forth. And my question is, like for example, Japanese newspapers or Japanese TVs is very, they are talking about a very small world rather than overseas people. So the discussion or debating issues is different. But also, Japanese are not accustomed to debate with people. They just listen and they don't think about the information about this. So it means even American people, they are not speak out what they're thinking. How do you think?
Japanese, I am a Japanese and I love Japan, and I evaluate the various virtues of Japanese society. And we have to, of course, to disseminate what we think and what our values are. I think that is very important. But of course, at the same time, the people in other countries have their own values and their own culture and their history. So we have to be open to communicate openly.
Many Japanese cannot open their mind, right? Is it? Can they?
I don't think so. Japan is a very open, society in terms of information and knowledge. But, of course, as you said, Japanese media is somewhat focused on domestic issues, and also from abroad. Most of them come from United States. Not even very little information from European countries like Germany or France or Scandinavian countries. They are doing pretty much very good things, but sometimes their information are not clearly introduced to Japan.
But people are not like that. People speak at more open mind. How do you think? People are more open mind?
I think currently there are many foreigners coming to Japan, and they actually meet the local people in Japan. I think they are getting to know what the Japanese people are, the real Japanese people are.
Like I organize training for Japanese people. For Japanese people, take them to China, take them to Asia, give them discussion involving with local people. But they are basically they want to spend by Japanese at night. They don't want to go into with people for drinking. They want to speak out in Japanese at night. Right?
Japanese people.
Yes.
Maybe.
So this is, I think, my family is Chinese or Korean, so I don't have kind of custom, just only at night talking about in Japanese. But usually Japanese people, they like to eat Japanese food, and they like to talk with Japanese language, especially at night. I think this is a lot of obstacle for foreigners to communicate with those people. Okay. By the way, I'd like to move into the nuclear power plant.
Nuclear power plants.
And currently, China under construction are planning to prepare 100 nuclear power plant, and they call in future maybe called problem. But Japan is also 2011 we have big accident, and at that time we stopped every nuclear power plant. Now still is active. A few power plant is active. But how do you think about this kind of issue? Do you agree with that, or nuclear power plant, or you against it?
I am actually not in favor of nuclear plants.
So it means in future we should abolish every kind of nuclear power plant in Japan?
I think Japan should gradually phase out nuclear power plants.
But the other question is...
actually, currently, there are very few power plants operating right now. And there is no need to reoperate the existing power plants.
I see. By the way, I think my audience is currently China is with under construction. We're going to make a power plant in total next 10 years, 100. It might be one or two of those will boost, and this very bad impact for Japan, Japanese climate. And so this is we can do anything at all, right, for the kind of issues. So this is a big problem. And any other? Do you think kind of power plant issue do you have?
I think there are various reasons to the needs of phasing out nuclear power plants. One is that the cost of power plant is not really cheaper than the rest of the power generation. There are hidden costs for
construction costs or operation costs.
Construction, operation, and also disposing of nuclear power waste, and the costs are associated with the accidents.
I see.
And also, there are no technology or no site to disposal of nuclear power waste.
Okay, let's take a rest. Okay.
長かった。